Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I hope it is not good night. So in last video we discussed about section 22. In this video we are gonna discuss about the subsequent section, possibly 23, 24, and 25. I hope I need not revise it again. It's 10, 20, 40, 40 mandatorily register 20 and 20, and then we have notified goods and all, and aggregate turnover, inclusion and exclusion. So coming back here to section 23, we have person not liable for registration. So these are the actual gist. First, we have exempt goods. So I'm talking about person not liable for registration. So first are exempt items and nil items. Second are agricultural goods or agri goods. Third is exclusively RCM supplies. Fourth is interstate services up to 20 lakhs. Fifth is interstate handicraft good up to 20 lakhs, because usually in interstate goods it is mandatorily registered, but whenever you are engaged in interstate supply of handicraft goods, then up to 20 lakhs you need not get registered. On the sixth part, it talks about casual taxable person. In next section 24, you will realize casual taxable person making taxable supply needs to get compulsorily registered. However, we have this exception to it, which says casual taxable person only and only if they are engaged in handicraft goods, then up to 20 lakhs they need not get registered, be it interstate or intrastate. I am not writing properly, please get it with the I don't think so in illustration. I need to spend time on my handwriting. On seventh one, e-commerce service supplier other than 95, they not get registered. 95 is a section which talks about e-commerce operator, in which e-commerce operator is required to pay GST, pay and deduct GST. So it talks about these items which have specific notified items, I guess, which includes delivery apps, which includes restaurant services, which includes online restaurant services wherein Zomato and all, for online accommodation services, for example Make My Trip, Oyo and all. So we have specific items in section 9.5. If any one of you comments me that they have a issue with 9.5, any one of you, I'm gonna make another video regarding 9.5 and I'm gonna adjoin it with this one. So only for service supply they are not required to get registered, but in exams please do not write this. These are only for understanding. You'll understand it, but whenever you write in exams, make sure you absolutely make sure and by heart this sentence what I'm gonna say, which is you have to answer in such a way that you are explaining to a 4-year kid. You are explaining to a 4-year kid. Of course, in this you have to make sure you have some actual specific items. For example, agricultural goods, you write produce out of cultivation of land. So coming here, we'll start with point 1, exempt items and nil items. Any person who is engaged in supplying exclusively goods or services. This is a common line which will use any person engaged in supply of. Then we talk about exclusively goods or services or both. Here we included everything a person can supply. So this is how we write. So whenever you are writing and any person engaged in supplying, then you need to include goods, services or both. Like sometimes you can exclude this part exclusively, and you can write goods, services or both, which will include everything that you can supply that are not liable for tax or wholly exempt for tax. This will talk about exempt items and nil items under this act or under GST, IGST. It's fine if you miss these lines or even this line, it's fine, but you need to learn from this to this. Any person engaged in supplying exclusively goods or services or both that are not liable for tax or wholly exempt for tax, so they are not liable for registration. So why am I teaching you how to write this point? It is that in exams of specific this section, you can get a direct question, or you can get a case study based question, wherein maybe a single case from here on and a single case from maybe here or section 22 might come, and you have to elaborate one or couple of sections, a couple of points in this section and other sections. Then at that time you need to be capable of writing something provisions like this. You should not like this. If you write like this, you want to get even a single mark. So second one, about agri goods, we have to write in this way: an agriculturist to the extent of supply of agricultural goods, which will write as produce out of cultivation of land. Agricultural goods, both are one and the same, but we write produce out of cultivation of land. The third one, exclusively RCM supplies, will write it in this way: person making exclusively RCM supplies except supplier of metal scrap. So leave this part. So whenever a person supplies metal scrap, if it's covered in RCM, still the person needs to get registered. I mean, normal section 22 shall apply, but this exclusive section will not apply. So a person making exclusively RCM supplies, which denotes that if a person is engaged in both RCM plus FCM, then this section will not apply to him. So another trick or another thing point to be noted: in exams, please do not write RCM, although it is said it's acceptable. At least once you write this reverse charge mechanism, and in subsequent part you can mention it as RCM, because they can cancel the marks. If possible, you can write our reverse charge mechanism everywhere. If it's not possible, write in first provisions, you can write it as reverse charge mechanism, and subsequent analysis and all, you can write it as RCM. It's fine. So on the fourth part, it's interstate services up to 20 lakhs. So we have learned over here, interstate supply of goods, they need to get mandatorily registered. So in section 23 they have told about interstate services. So person making interstate supply of exclusively taxable services up to 20 lakhs, they need not get registered. It's a simple one. Fifth one is interstate handicraft goes up to 20 lakhs. It's simple as well. A person making an interstate supplies of notified handicraft goods up to 20 lakhs, they need not get registered. Then a casual taxable person, which we'll learn in section 24, that a casual taxable person needs to get mandatorily registered, but it has an exception that casual taxable person making an interstate or even intrastate supply of taxable notified handicraft goods up to 20 lakhs, they are not required to get registered, but this will decrease as 10 lakhs in case of MMTN states. MMTN states are the same states which we discussed in section 22: Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, Nagaland. And as with respect to section 22, they already have a limit of 10 lakhs. So if they are engaged in this MMTN states, then this limit of 10 lakhs will be applicable. Within this threshold limit, they are not liable to get registered. Now we'll come to seventh part: a person making supply of services, only services not goods, through e-commerce operator other than specified in 9.5, which means 9.5 items must be excluded, with aggregate turnover up to 20 lakhs, they need not get registered. Here we are talking about a person who makes supplies, that is a supplier. It does not talk about e-commerce operator. It only talks about supplier of services, which are not included in section 9.5 for aggregate turnover. Okay, because whenever 9.5 comes, any which way supplier is not required to get registered as well. So enough with this one. Now, as I have shown you this shortcut, I hope this shortcut is not required in compulsory register. It's a simple one. So section 24 deals with an items or number of items, probably 8, wherein a person, a supplier, needs to get compulsorily registered. The first one is if a person makes interstate supply of goods, except handicraft goods, of course, where PAN is provided and e-way bill is also generated. We'll revise this in e-way bill chapter, that whenever handicraft goods are sent from one location to another or interstate, then PAN needs to be furnished and even bill needs to be furnished. That will make them, um, that will make them, that will enable them to not get compulsorily registered, of course. The second one is casual taxable person making taxable supply, they needs to get compulsorily registered. But as we have seen in last section, but if casual taxable person is engaged in exclusively supply of handicraft goods, then limit of 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs, 10 lakhs for MMTN states, 10 lakhs for MMTN states, and 20 lakhs for others shall apply with respect to section 22 same, whether interstate or intrastate. Third one is person who is required to pay tax under RCM. So any recipient, we are talking about, not talking about supplier, we are talking about a recipient who is required to pay tax under RCM, they need to be compulsorily registered. On the fourth part, we talk about NRTP or non-resident taxable person. Same applies to him. Do not write NRTP, write non-resident taxable person, and later on subsequently you can denote him as NRTP. Making any taxable supplies, he compulsory needs to be registered. So you remember one stuff, CTP and NRTP, both needs to be compulsory registered. The fifth one is a person who is required to deduct tax under section 51. They are needs to get compulsorily registered. A person we talked about specifically agent over here. A person who makes taxable supply of goods or services or both on behalf of other taxable person, whether here other taxable person is a principal who is registered. It does not talk about unregistered principal, but if principal is registered, whether as an agent or otherwise, we talk about this person, whether as an agent or otherwise, if he works on behalf of registered principal, where we speak like this, other taxable person, or you can refer it as registered principal also. You can deduct this part, you can write registered principal, then the person should get compulsorily registered. Seventh is transferee of business. If a business is transferred, then transferee of that business compulsorily needs to be registered. On the eighth part, we talk about e-commerce supply, some of the items. Every e-commerce operator, we talk about e-commerce operator who is required to collect TCS under section 52, that e-commerce operator is required to get registered. The e-commerce operator required to pay tax on specified services under 95, as we have seen over here, same 95 comes here. If you have a doubt, just let me know in the comments. I'll make another video for section 95. So e-commerce operator who is required to pay GST, specifically tax over here, on the specified services, this e-commerce operator is required to get registered. But generally e-commerce operator को कहीं ना कुछ सेक्शन लगा के उसको रजिस्टर करवा ही देते हैं, विच वी नो के जनरली इफ you come as an e-commerce operator, you need to be mandatorily registered, but ऐसे चुटपुट करके you have other sections. So you cannot straightforward write that e-commerce operator should be mandatorily registered, but in different sections and all it's covered and they are required to be registered, of course. On 8C, a person who supplies, here we talk about supplier, a person who supplies or supplier of goods and or services, means goods or services or both, which we denote as. So over here we wrote as goods or services or both. You can write it as this also. I have specifically written it to make you understand that you can write in your way, but it should be denoting the general fundamental principle of understanding. So you can write it as this way as well, goods and or services, which will include goods, services and both, through e-commerce operator other than specified in 9(5), subject to threshold limit under section 22. So if a person or supplier, if he is not if is not included in 9.5, then subject to threshold limit of section 22. It's a simple one, same which we discussed over here. This MMTN, Massport and all, the same threshold limit applied for MMTN 10 lakhs, Massport 20 lakhs, and other states, other section, it's based on sometimes 40 lakhs, sometimes 20 lakhs, as we have seen here. Same will apply. So this threshold limit will apply if they if their aggregate turnover goes beyond the threshold limit, then they needs to get registered. Here we talk about section 25. I think this video is already much longer. Let's not put it. In next video we'll learn about section 25 in simple way. In this video you go through section 23, you go through section 24. I think I have made my revision video absolutely clear. After completing all the sections, we'll discuss some of the questions as well. I hope you like this video. Gaurav Singh this side. We'll be making faceless 4K videos for you. I hope you like them. Thank you all. Until then, bye bye.